Hello and welcome to Mission Alive. I'm going to go back a bit. I once told you the story of what happened in Milne Bay during the war, what happened over in the West, Yule Island, Mekio, Gulf Province, Western Province during the war. In Milne Bay, all the expatriates were evacuated. In West, they went out into the bush and lived. But in Ramale it was a different story because Ramale was the first place taken by the enemy. The Australian soldiers went into the bush, but the people, the religious, the brothers and the sisters, the bishop and the priest, they didn't. They stayed there in Ramale. They had nowhere else to go. And the Japanese arrived so very quickly that they didn't have time to get anywhere. So they were all taken prisoners. They were all put in the mission compound, and that became their prison. But after a while, that became too small, and so they were moved to another place nearby. Then the fighting became more intense, and the Japanese moved them further away. They moved them into a place that took the name of Ramale Valley, a place that really became famous, not for the war, but for the people who were there. They were really heroic, not being great heroes that people saw. But for 1942, 43, 44, 45, 4 years, they lived there in that valley. It was dark down in the valley with all the trees growing around. They were inside a fence and they had very little food. Fortunately, the young Papua New Guinea religious women who had been left outside and not counted as important made gardens, and they brought the food to the compound where the missionaries were, and somehow they got it through the fence to the missionaries and they had food. Sometimes the soldiers took some of the food because they too were hungry, but always some of it got to the fathers and the brothers and the sisters, the missionaries. Sister Petra was the cook, and they said she cried all the time she was in Ramale Valley. Not tears of sadness, not tears of joy even, but just tears because her kitchen was full of smoke. Nobody could see the smoke going up, otherwise it could be a signal to the aeroplanes that were bombing, either the enemy or the friends. So she couldn't let smoke be seen. So she had a hard time keeping the smoke down and not going out. The missionaries stayed there a long time and they became very close to each other. And the thing was, they were such mixed nationalities. And each nationality is different, has its own characteristics, does things a different way. Sometimes when people do things are different to you, we get annoyed. Don't do it like that. We don't do it like that. Oh, but I do. So to live with people who do things that are different from you can sometimes be very hard. But if you accept it, if you would say, all right, that's your way, you do it your way, and I'll do it my way. We won't see who's the best, but we'll just do it because you find it easy to do it that way and I find it easy to do this way. We don't all have to be the same. We can do things differently. We have different recipes, we have different menus, we have different kinds of foods that we like. But for 4 years, nobody complained. They worked together. The lay people, the nurses that were there, they'd soon disappeared because the Japanese sent them to Japan to work. But the religious stayed there. Nobody was taken away. Many died, of course. Many were old. But they helped each other. And at the end of the war, when they were released, they were such good friends. They wept, they cried when they knew they had to leave each other. Each one to go home to their own place to recover. But they all came back. They all came back. Sister Petra came back and continued cooking. Sister Petra came back and continued doing the washing. working with the girls to help them to learn, to help them to do. All the missionaries, the priests, the brothers and sisters all return to be teachers, to be nurses, to be carpenters. They showed their love, they showed their thankfulness by their relationship with each other and by returning to where they needed to be. So think about it. Do you let others get on your nerves and get irritable? Or do you accept others as just doing things differently from you? Look out for it this week and see what you can do to make life better for others.